Type 1, a 501c3 nonprofit organization, is working toward a world free of type 1 diabetes and is dedicated to that future by raising public awareness and funds toward a cure. Type 1 held its premier Par for the Cure event on September 15th, 2021 at the Crosswinds Golf Course in Plymouth, Massachusetts. There were many great silent auction and raffle items donated by generous businesses and individuals. Many volunteers showed up to make the day a big success. A good time was had by all, followed by some great food, socializing, and an appearance by Dr. Denise Faustman, whose research is partially funded by Type 1.
Doing the research that we are funding, we are helping fund for type 1 diabetes at Mass General. We've been donating to nursery 10 years that we've been involved. It's going to be a life-saving breakthrough for a lot of folks that are here, the type 1 diabetics and their family, myself, my daughter. I'm really excited to introduce her, Dr. Faustman, to say a few words about what she's doing.
And golf are really going to be hard to talk over, but I'm only going to talk for 10 minutes, I promise you, okay? So, everybody always says, do I have type 1 diabetes? And the answer is no, I don't have type 1 diabetes. So, that's not what got me hooked on this disease. And I got started in this over 20 years ago when I was a PhD student, and I thought the cure for type 1 diabetes was taking out the part of the pancreas which were making insulin and transplant it to people. And that project was part of my PhD work and actually got me recruited to Harvard Medical School. And then the sad news was it didn't work. And a lot of people have continued with that approach that you're missing part of your pancreas, so let's just put it back in. Let's do a transplant. Let's get stem cells and put it back in. But the problem is when you have autoimmunity like type 1 diabetes and you put back in those cells, your immune system still kills them, okay? So if you have an underlying white blood cell disease and you don't address the white blood cell problem, the disease just reoccurs and reoccurs. So the good news is I got recruited to Harvard Medical School. The bad news is our first 5 or 6 years of translation told us we were on the wrong path. But we spent about the next 15 years literally having people with type 1 diabetes come in and look at their white blood cells to try to figure out where the defects were. And a long story short is in the human, we started to identify pathways, which nobody wants to hear about in this talk, let alone golf. And we thought, well, now we can create a drug to take rid of these bad white blood cells. So we set up a program to identify a drug. That's what Harvard professors do, right? Identify a drug. And what we realized was that there was a generic drug. And when we realized there was these pathways, we started creating new drugs. And then we realized that there was a generic old drug, 125 years old, that was sitting on the shelf, not used anymore, that had the possible therapeutic effect. So that's how we got into generic drug development for type 1 diabetes. We thought it would be a no-brainer. And we gradually became aware over a 10-year period that it's actually really hard to develop a generic drug. Because most times when we're successful, the pharma companies come in and support our data. But if you're creating a drug that's going to take away the use of insulin, take away the use of pumps, and be cost effective, your friends come from different places. So you guys are really our friends. It's about a generic drug development program that wouldn't be possible without the kind of fundraising the Renegade Run is doing, and now the Type 1 Diabetes Group is doing. Because if it wasn't because of your generosity, this wouldn't be here. And certainly now the insurance companies are coming in as well because their goals are aligned. So what is this drug, okay? The drug most people in the US haven't heard about is something called BCG, okay? BCG is the oldest vaccine in the world. 120 million infants got BCG last year at birth. It was developed for tuberculosis in France over 125 years ago. And the reason we like this drug is it's really Mycobacterium tuberculosis that's inactive. So what are we doing putting this infection back in? Well, it turns out that a lot of people now know that the incidence of type 1 diabetes is going up, right? Autoimmunity is going up, allergies are going up in kids, psoriasis is going up, rheumatoid arthritis is growing up, and it's all based on this concept called the hygiene hypothesis, that as you end up with greater wealth, you end up with greater cleanliness, you're no longer farming out there, and your interaction with microbes goes way down. So if you're from California and you come visit our clinic, we just tell you we're putting in dirt. We're putting in dirt to reset your immune system to restore it to normal. And it turns out that people who study evolution know that this BCG organism was even found in the bone marrow of Neanderthals. So it's only in the last 50 years it's been removed from your bone marrow, and thus its interaction with you has been disturbed. So where are we? We're not in mice, we're in fairly advanced human clinical trials. These trials for diabetes occur at the Mass General Hospital, but globally many people have now caught on, and if you have multiple sclerosis, another autoimmune disease, they're in late-stage trials in Italy. If you have severe allergies, the trial centers are in Australia where they're using this drug. If you have other issues with psoriasis and other autoimmune diseases, those trials are in Europe. So now a lot of people around the world are working to try to reintroduce this vaccine to reset the immune system. So the stage of trials we're in are phase 2 trials, and we just got really good news about 2 weeks ago after nearly 2-year flog with the FDA that we're going to start kids soon, okay? A select subset of kids, etc. So the money you donate is going to go to kids, okay, and support that program. So everybody always goes, how do I get in a trial? And then there's a lot of hankering and fighting to get in these trials. So I have some handouts there of where we are in the program. There's an email, and if you have type 1 diabetes, whether you're interested in this work or not, you or your child should get registered. Okay, you're mostly from Boston, you can get registered. And then as trial slots appear, and we go, oh my God, this is a 16-year-old kid that's had diabetes 5 years, we can start reaching out to you. So I don't want to bore everybody because it's hard to compete with beer, but that's it. Okay. Good call. Good call. So I'm going to be here for a while. The handout's there. Reach out. Enjoy yourselves. And I really sincerely appreciate the philanthropy in the room. It's these guys get the credit. I just show up. And you know, this is a year-long effort. This is not something you do 2 months ahead. And it's on the minds of these families all the time. And I think we see so much bad news, but Americans do not get enough credit for the unbelievable philanthropy that's grassroots. So I'd like to thank my sponsors for giving me donations, and I thank them for all their efforts to keep this program moving. Okay, thank you.
What is she doing? She's picking up trash.
Ungodly amounts of trash.